There is a story told in silence. It waits beneath your distractions, behind your assumptions, beyond your fear. When the mind becomes still and the breath becomes deep, you will see everything. Many people chase clarity through noise. They search for truth in arguments, but the sun does not need to argue to reveal the day, nor does the moon rush to reflect the night. Nature shows us clarity is not something you chase. It is what remains when you stop chasing. You want to see everything. Then stop looking for something. Sit, breathe, be. When your mind no longer runs toward pleasure or flees from discomfort, what remains is not emptiness. What remains is understanding. You will see how your pain is your teacher, how your fear is your boundary, how your breath is your guide. You will see that the mountain was never in your way. It was your path. To see everything, you must remove the fog you create, judgments, comparisons, resistance. You do not see reality, you see your thoughts about it. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of awareness. Only when you become still, not lazy, but alert like the tiger waiting in the grass, only then do you begin to perceive clearly. And when you see clearly, you act with purpose, you speak with care, you live with peace. So do not ask, when will I see everything? Ask instead, what within me is blocking the view? Remove it. Then wait, then breathe, then you will see everything. Stillness is not simply the absence of motion. It is the quieting of the noise that clouds perception. Many people assume that by doing more, they will achieve more. But doing is not the same as seeing. When the mind is agitated, when thoughts race from one concern to another, clarity becomes impossible. Like muddy water stirred by a stick, the more we stir, the less we can see. It is only when we allow the water to settle that its depths become visible. We live in a world addicted to movement. Constant scrolling, chasing, speaking, rushing. People fear being still because stillness feels like doing nothing. But this is a misunderstanding. Stillness is not laziness, it is a discipline. It takes inner strength to sit quietly when every part of you wants to react. It takes courage to face what arises in the silence of your own being. True stillness is not a passive state. It is highly active internally, filled with awareness and watchfulness. In the space of stillness, clarity is born. This is because stillness removes distraction. Distraction is not just external noise, it is also internal dialogue. Our mind comments constantly on everything we experience, judging, labeling, comparing. When you become still, these voices lose their power. You begin to hear something beneath them, the simple truth of the present moment. In this truth, clarity is not something you grasp. It is something you recognize. Think of a forest in the early morning. No wind, no people, only mist rising slowly from the earth. The animals are quiet, the trees unmoving. That stillness is not empty. It is full of life. You do not need to force anything in that moment. You simply become aware. You begin to notice details you normally overlook. The sound of a distant bird, the shape of a leaf, the rhythm of your own breath. Clarity emerges from this same quiet observation. Many try to solve their problems by thinking harder. They gather more information, analyze every angle, consult every source. But the solution often lies in stepping back, not forward. The mind that tries to fix everything often becomes the cause of further entanglement. Stillness allows the mind to reset. It allows wisdom, not just knowledge, to rise from within. Sometimes the clarity we need does not come from figuring things out, but from letting them be seen in a new light. Stillness also connects you to a deeper intelligence. There is a knowing beyond thought, a quiet guidance that surfaces only when the noise fades. Some call it intuition, others call it inner wisdom. Whatever name you give it, it is there always. But it cannot compete with chaos. You must create the space in which it can speak. You must become quiet enough to hear the truth that already lives inside you. And so, to cultivate clarity, you must first cultivate stillness. This does not mean withdrawing from life. It means participating fully without losing your center. You can walk through a storm with stillness in your heart. You can work, speak, create without becoming lost in motion. This is not about removing yourself from the world. It is about moving through it with awareness, grounded in the calm that only stillness can provide. In the end, stillness is the soil in which clarity grows. It is not the fruit, it is the ground. Without it, nothing stable can take root. Without it, perception remains shallow and distorted. But with stillness, the fog lifts, vision sharpens. Understanding deepens, and slowly, gently, you begin to see, not just with your eyes, but with your whole being. Clarity is not a destination waiting at the end of a long pursuit. It is not a trophy earned through relentless striving. It is already present, just hidden beneath layers of noise, conditioning, and confusion. Like the blue sky obscured by clouds, clarity does not need to be created. It needs to be uncovered. The process is not about adding more effort, but removing what is unnecessary, not about accumulation, but purification. Many people live as if clarity lies somewhere else. If I read more, if I do more, if I get there, then I will see. So they chase new books, new teachers, new experiences, new answers. But the one thing they do not consider is whether the chasing itself is the obstacle. A turbulent mind cannot perceive clearly, no matter how much knowledge it holds. It is not a question of how fast you run, but what you are running from. To uncover clarity, we must understand what buries it. Assumptions, fears, expectations, these are the layers that cover perception. They shape how we interpret the world before we even truly observe it. When we meet a person, we don't see them as they are. We see them through the lens of our past. When we face a decision, we don't weigh it with fresh awareness. We often drag old stories into the moment. The mind does not need more content. It needs more space. Imagine a mirror covered in dust. If you want to see your reflection clearly, you do not need to build a new mirror. You simply clean the one you already have. Slowly, patiently, you wipe away the dirt, and with each movement, the image beneath becomes clearer. The same is true for the mind. Clarity comes not from adding, but from removing. Not from doing more, but from understanding what no longer serves you. This process of uncovering is subtle. It requires honesty and presence. You must observe the patterns of thought that obscure your sight. The stories you tell yourself, the identities you cling to. You must notice how often your mind labels things as good or bad, right or wrong, without understanding. These judgments create walls, and behind those walls the truth waits quietly, not hidden but ignored. There is a difference between seeking and seeing. Seeking implies something is missing. Seeing reveals what has always been there. The greatest clarity often comes when you stop seeking and start listening, not listening to others, but to the quiet intelligence within. That part of you that knows without needing explanation. That part of you that recognizes truth the way your eyes recognize light. It is a mistake to believe that more information will lead to more clarity. Information is useful, but it is only a tool. Without a clear lens to process it, even the wisest teaching can become distorted. The work, then, is on the lens itself. To observe the filters you place over reality, to ask gently, is this belief true? Is this thought helpful? Is this reaction mine, or a habit I've adopted without knowing? The more you ask, the more the dust falls away. When the mind becomes quiet and the heart becomes still, clarity arises on its own. Like a lotus rising through the mud, it does not need to be forced. It simply needs the right conditions. And the right condition is not effort without end. It is attention without distortion. Clarity is not out there. It is within you, beneath the layers. You do not chase it. You allow it to emerge as you begin the lifelong art of uncovering. Perception is not the same as truth. It is a lens through which we interpret reality, and that lens is shaped by thought. What you see is not always what is, but rather what your mind believes, expects, or fears. In this way, thought becomes both a guide and a filter. It helps us navigate the world, yes, but it also distorts it. The more we identify with our thoughts, the less we truly see what stands in front of us. Thoughts arise from memory, from past experiences, from language and emotion. They are often automatic. A sound, a face, a situation immediately. Thought rushes in with a label. This is good, that is bad, I've been here before. But in that rush, presence is lost. We are no longer meeting the moment as it is. We are meeting it through the residue of what was. And so, perception becomes colored, like looking through tinted glass without realizing it. Many conflicts, both inner and outer, are not about what is happening, but about what people think is happening. The same event can trigger anger in one person and peace in another, depending on the thoughts attached to it. Perception is shaped by mental habits, by conditioning accumulated over years. These habits whisper constantly in the background, "You're not enough, they don't respect you. This shouldn't be happening," but rarely do we pause to ask, is that voice true? To see clearly, you must first become aware of how thought operates. It is not your enemy, but it is not always your ally. Thought is a tool, but most people have become tools of their thoughts. They believe every story the mind creates, follow every emotional reaction like a command, and accept every assumption as fact. This is not perception, it is projection, and what is projected blinds us from what is real. There is great power in recognizing a thought as just a thought. When you begin to observe your thinking instead of merging with it, space opens up inside you. In that space, clarity lives. You start to see how one judgment leads to another, how one belief triggers an emotion, and how quickly the mind spins a web of interpretation around a single moment. When you catch this process in motion, you begin to disarm it. This is why training in awareness is essential. Not to control thought, but to witness it without becoming entangled. Like watching clouds move across the sky, you do not need to chase them or push them away. You simply watch. Some are dark, some are light, but you are not the clouds. You are the sky. Perception becomes clearer the more you remain as the sky, unmoved, observing. The mind is always trying to explain. It craves certainty, definition, meaning. But life is not always meant to be explained. It is meant to be experienced directly, without the interference of excessive interpretation. The breeze on your face does not need a thought. The presence of another person does not need a judgment. When you put down the need to define everything, you begin to perceive things in their raw, vibrant essence. And so, it is not reality that is unclear. It is the thoughts we impose upon it that make it so. To return to clarity is not to silence the mind by force, but to step back from its noise. To recognize that perception becomes pure when it is no longer filtered through endless thought. When the waves of the mind settle, the water becomes clear. And in that still water you can finally see, not just reflections, but what lies beneath. Silence is often misunderstood. To many, it appears empty, passive, or lacking. But true silence is not a void. It is a presence, a space filled with awareness. It does not conceal truth, it uncovers it. When we are silent, we do not shut down the world. We remove the clutter that prevents us from hearing it. We create space for things to be seen and felt as they are, without interruption or interference. In the stillness of silence, much is revealed. The subtle movements of the body, the rhythm of the breath, the landscape of thought, the texture of emotion. These details are always present, but they go unnoticed when the mind is busy speaking externally or internally. When words fall away and thoughts grow quiet, what remains is pure observation. What remains is the essence of the moment, stripped of narration. Silence is not the absence of communication. It is a deeper form of it. Often, words only touch the surface, while silence reaches beneath. Two people sitting together in silence can share more understanding than hours of conversation could offer. A tree does not speak, yet it teaches presence. The ocean does not explain itself, yet it evokes all. Silence holds truths that cannot be spoken, but they can be known. Most of the time, we use words to control, to defend, to impress, or to escape. But silence requires none of that. It demands honesty, patience, and surrender. In silence, we cannot hide behind explanations or performance. What we feel rises, what we avoid shows itself. Silence reveals because it does not distract, it does not distort. It simply holds everything in stillness, like a clear lake holding the reflection of the sky. Many fear silence because it strips away the familiar noise that fills the void within. In that space, the inner world becomes visible, perhaps for the first time. The pain we suppress, the tension we carry, the longing we pretend not to feel, all of it comes into view. But this is not a punishment. It is a gift, because what is seen can be understood, and what is understood can be transformed. Silence begins the process. There is a sacred quality in silence, not bound to any religion, but present in every sincere moment of attention. It allows room for what is essential to emerge, not the urgent, but the important, not the loudest voice, but the truest one. Often we seek answers from the outside, waiting for someone to tell us what to do or who to be. But in silence, the voice we most need to hear finally has the space to speak, our own. Silence also sharpens perception. It heightens sensitivity to subtle things, a change in tone, a shift in posture, the quiet emotions beneath someone's words. It attunes us not just to what is said, but to what is left unsaid. This makes us more compassionate, more present, more capable of understanding others deeply. We become listeners, not just to others, but to life itself. So while the world may shout that silence is weakness or emptiness, the truth is quite different. Silence is strength. It is substance. It is a doorway to insight. It is not what hides the truth. It is what removes the veils. When embraced, it becomes a mirror that reflects not only the world outside, but the quiet truth that has been waiting within all along. Pain is not just a signal of harm. It is a messenger of truth. It arises when something within us is touched, stretched, or broken. We often try to escape it, numb it, or fight against it. But if we are willing to be still with pain, to observe it without resistance, we begin to see that it is not here to punish us. It is here to teach us. Pain carries insight, but only for the one who is willing to sit with it patiently. Fear, too, is misunderstood. It is not always an enemy. Fear often points directly to what we care about most. It shows us the edge of our comfort, the boundary of our current self. It says, "Here is where your growth lies," but instead of listening, we run from it. We distract ourselves, we make excuses, we pretend not to feel it. But when we stop running, when we turn toward fear and look it in the eye, we often find that its shadow was larger than its form. Obstacles are part of every journey. We tend to view them as problems, as delays, as things that should not be. But what if the obstacle is not in the way? What if it is the way? What if every difficulty is precisely the lesson we need to become who we are meant to be? The mountain is not an error in your path, it is your path, and every step you take to climb it strengthens the very qualities the journey requires: patience, discipline, courage. Often, the lessons that come from pain, fear, and obstacles cannot be learned through ease. Comfort rarely pushes us to question, to stretch, to examine ourselves. But suffering forces us to slow down, to ask deeper questions, to let go of illusions. It humbles us, and in that humility we become open. We begin to see that strength is not the absence of struggle, but the willingness to face it with awareness. The body teaches us this clearly. If we train only within comfort, we grow very little. But when the muscles begin to shake, when the breath becomes heavy, when we move through fatigue, then growth begins. The same is true in the heart and mind. Emotional and mental resilience do not arise in times of ease. They are forged through the fire of experience, through moments when we are tested, when we doubt, when we fall and rise again. Pain asks us to pay attention. Fear invites us to become courageous. Obstacles challenge us to develop inner stability. These are not punishments, they are invitations. Life, in its deepest wisdom, places them before us, not to destroy us, but to awaken us, to strip away what is false and reveal what is real. Growth does not always look like expansion, it often begins with breaking. We must learn to listen to what difficulty is trying to say. Each wound holds a lesson. Each setback contains direction. If we silence the noise of our frustration, we begin to hear the teaching hidden inside the challenge. It may whisper, "Let go." It may whisper, "Slow down." It may whisper, "This is not your path." And sometimes it simply says, "You are stronger than you think." In this way, pain, fear, and obstacles become not enemies to defeat, but teachers to respect. They do not speak in the language of comfort, but in the language of transformation. And though we may not choose them, we can choose how we meet them, with resistance or with presence, with bitterness or with humility. When we meet them with awareness, they show us not only where we are, but who we are becoming. Discipline is often misunderstood as limitation, as if it is a cage built from rules and routines. But this is a shallow view. True discipline is not a prison, it is a path. It is the structure that supports your highest potential. It is the deliberate act of shaping your time, your actions, and your attention in service of something greater. Without discipline, we do not become free, we become slaves to impulse, habit, and distraction. Freedom without discipline is chaos. A person who does only what feels good in the moment eventually becomes trapped by that very instinct. They wake up late, scroll endlessly, delay what matters, avoid discomfort, and wonder why their life feels scattered and empty. They are not free, they are unanchored. Real freedom is not the ability to do anything you want at any time. It is the power to do what you must when it matters most. Discipline is the quiet companion of clarity. It gives form to your intentions. Many people have vision, dreams, and goals, but they lack the consistency to bring them to life. Discipline turns thought into reality. It is the bridge between knowing and becoming. The moment you commit to practice, to doing the hard thing not once, but again and again, you begin to move toward mastery, not just of skill, but of self. There is deep peace in structure. When your day has rhythm, your mind has room to rest. When your body has routine, your energy stabilizes. When your thoughts are organized by intention, anxiety lessens. Discipline simplifies life. It reduces the number of decisions you need to make, allowing you to focus on what truly matters. It transforms wandering into direction, confusion into purpose. The paradox is this: discipline feels hard in the beginning, but over time it becomes ease. Without it, ease comes first and hardship follows. Skipping practice may feel comfortable today, but it leads to weakness tomorrow. Eating without awareness may taste sweet now, but it drains vitality later. The disciplined path asks for effort upfront, but in return it offers strength, confidence, and freedom of movement in all things. Discipline also builds trust in oneself. Every time you follow through on a commitment, no matter how small, you tell yourself, "I can rely on me." That inner reliability is a form of freedom because it means you are not at the mercy of mood, environment, or circumstance. You become anchored. You become capable of acting with intention, even when life is uncertain or difficult. True discipline is not harsh. It is not forced. It is chosen again and again, not from fear, but from understanding. You see that the path of freedom requires focus. You recognize that the highest expression of your being does not come from indulgence, but from conscious practice. And so you bow to the process. You wake early, you train, you study, you care for the body and still the mind. Not because you must, but because you see the value in what it brings. In time, discipline becomes your ally. It no longer feels like effort. It feels like alignment. You move through your day with grace because your energy is no longer scattered. You are not weighed down by guilt, regret, or indecision. You are clear, you are consistent, you are calm. And this is the essence of true freedom, the ability to live from your center, undisturbed by the shifting winds of desire. You are the lens through which you experience the world. Every encounter, every joy, every hardship passes first through your inner landscape. And that inner landscape is shaped by how deeply you have dared to meet yourself. If you have not explored your own depths, the world appears shallow. If you have not faced your own fear, the world seems threatening. If you have not learned to sit with your own silence, you will struggle to hear life's quiet wisdom. Meeting yourself means turning inward, not to escape the world, but to understand your place within it. It is not about indulgence or overanalysis, but honest self-inquiry. What are your patterns? What are your wounds? What do you seek from others that you have not yet given to yourself? These questions are not always comfortable, but they are essential. Without them, you move through life reacting instead of responding, repeating instead of learning. There is a depth in life that only reveals itself when you are willing to go deep within. Just as the ocean cannot be understood by skimming its surface, the richness of existence cannot be grasped through distraction or avoidance. You must descend into your memories, your desires, your fears, into the beliefs that drive you, into the silence beneath your thoughts. The deeper you go, the more connected you become, not only to yourself, but to everything around you. This is why shallow engagement leads to a shallow life. When you rush through your days, numb your discomfort, avoid solitude, and fear stillness, you miss the essence of things. You meet people, but not their soul. You see beauty, but not its presence. You hear words, but not their meaning. But when you've met your own suffering, you recognize it in others. When you've found peace in your own heart, you see it reflected in the world. To meet yourself is also to accept yourself. Not only the parts you admire, but the ones you hide, your impatience, your insecurities, your longing to be seen. When you bring gentle attention to these places, they begin to soften. You realize that depth is not perfection, it is presence. It is being honest enough to say, "This is who I am now," and still choosing to be kind, to keep walking, to keep learning. The more you know yourself, the more intimate your connection with life becomes. You are no longer waiting for meaning to arrive. You are creating it with every breath. You begin to see that the world is not separate from you. The pain of another becomes your pain. The joy of a sunrise feels like your own rebirth. You listen not just with your ears, but with your being, because you are no longer a stranger to yourself. Everything becomes familiar, even the unknown. Meeting yourself deeply requires courage. It is not a single act, but a practice a willingness to return again and again to your center, to face your loneliness without flinching, to hold your anger without acting it out, to sit in stillness even when your mind screams for distraction. It is through this steady inner work that you develop the capacity to truly be with life in all its messiness and beauty without shutting down or turning away. And so the invitation is simple but profound. If you wish to feel more, understand more, connect more, begin within. Do not wait for life to show you something deeper. Life can only meet you where you are. The depth of your relationships, your work, your joy, your sorrow, they all reflect your inner depth. The journey outward will always mirror the journey inward. For nothing outside you can reveal what you have not first touched within. The moment you become something, an identity, a role, a fixed belief, you limit your perception. You begin to look at life not as it is, but through the narrow window of who you think you are. I am this kind of person, I am right, I am hurt. These mental forms solidify like stone, and the more tightly you hold to them, the harder it becomes to see clearly. The world shrinks to match your self-definition, and so, to see everything, you must become nothing, open, fluid, empty of attachment. Nothingness is not absence, it is not a void of meaning or value, it is spaciousness, a mind that is not caught in comparison, not clouded by ego, not always seeking validation. When you are nothing, you are free. You can move without fear of losing something. You can listen without the need to defend. You can witness without bias, because you are not holding on to an idea of yourself that must be preserved at all costs. Everything in life flows, thoughts come and go, emotions rise and fall, the body changes, roles shift. If you try to grip any of it too tightly, it causes suffering. But if you remain like the sky, unchanging, spacious, and aware, you can hold all of it without being disturbed. Being nothing means not confusing yourself with the passing clouds. You are not your anger, you are not your praise. You are the awareness behind them, and in that awareness you see more, not less. Most people live in reaction. They are pulled by desire, pushed by fear, swayed by opinion. This constant movement keeps them from truly seeing. Their minds are full of judgment, full of noise, but an overflowing cup cannot receive anything new. To see clearly, you must empty yourself, not once, but again and again. Let go of what you know, let go of what you want, let go of what you think things should be. Then life begins to reveal itself quietly, directly. To be nothing is not to disappear. It is to be present without interference. When you meet someone and drop your need to impress or dominate, you actually connect. When you walk into a space without assumption or resistance, you notice what is subtle, the sound of breath, the flicker of emotion, the energy beneath words. In nothingness, your senses become sharp, your presence becomes powerful, because you are not in the way. This is why great wisdom often comes from those who seem humble, quiet, even invisible. They are not competing to be seen, they are busy seeing. Not with the eyes of ambition, but with the eyes of awareness. In being nothing, they become everything. They can relate to all people. They can walk into any room without losing themselves. They are not trying to stand out, but somehow they shine. To be nothing is to live from essence, not ego. The ego always wants to be someone, admired, envied, feared, respected, but the essence just wants to be, to witness, to serve, to participate in the dance of life without needing to lead. When you return to this essence, you experience life more fully. You feel things as they are, not as you wish them to be. You accept impermanence, you embody peace because you are not struggling to be more, and so nothingness becomes the doorway to vision. It does not dull perception, it heightens it. You become the quiet watcher, the still center in the storm, the open space through which truth appears. The less of you there is, the more room there is for life to show itself. And when there is no longer a fixed identity to protect or promote, you finally begin to see not just with your eyes, but with your whole being. So, in the end, what does it mean to see everything? It is not about collecting more information or chasing endless experiences. It is not about controlling life or reaching some final state of perfection. It is about deepening your presence, softening your grip, stepping out of the noise and into stillness. It is about watching carefully, listening fully, and allowing yourself to be shaped not by your desires, but by your awareness. You begin to see not only the world outside, but the world within. You see how your reactions create your suffering, how silence speaks louder than sound, how discipline frees you, how pain guides you, how fear humbles you, how every challenge is a mirror. And the more clearly you see, the less you need to speak, because truth doesn't always need explanation, it needs embodiment. You don't need to become someone special to see everything. You don't need to add more. You need to remove what blocks your vision: attachment, resistance, pride, and fear. And when those begin to fall away, even for a moment, you realize the simplicity of it all. You are not separate from life. You are not here to conquer it. You are here to meet it, fully, honestly, and deeply, not with eyes clouded by identity, but with the quiet openness of someone who has seen themselves clearly. In that space, life reveals itself, and in that revelation there is peace.